Lift your nose up once in a while and take a look around. Okay, guys and gals, so the lake's in really rough today. I could probably make it out to Manitou. It's about 9 miles from the launch here in Copper Harbor. But I'm seeing whitecaps out there. And tomorrow the forecast is going to be down at like 1 foot waves. So weather diminishing substantially by tomorrow. So I'm not going to get in a hurry. I'm just going to hang out here in Copper Harbor tonight and walk around, walk Wavey. A lot of tourists here right now. The parking lot is full to Isle Royal. As most of you guys know, one of the ferries, this is one of the ferry points over to Isle Royal. And you can usually tell how busy it is over there by looking at the parking lot. It looks like it's overflow, so people must be getting in their Isle Royal trips now. Usually the places I go when I take my own boat in the middle of the island, I don't see the tourists because they come in Rock Harbor or Wendigo. And I pop into Rock Harbor once in a while, these guys have seen, but for the most part, if you're in your own boat, it doesn't matter how many people are there, you'll hardly see anybody, but yeah. So this lake right here behind me is called Lake Fanny Ho. Kind of a funny name. Reminds me of like Robin Hood or something. Isn't that like a word from Robin Hood or a name or something? But yeah, I've never come back here. There's a campground here. I think it's partially state run and partially private, I think, from what I can tell. You know me, I don't stay in campgrounds. I'd go broke. I'd already be broke. I'm already broke anyways, but you know what I mean. So sleeping in the truck tonight, I found a little spot wide enough off the road to park, and there's no signs or anything. It actually isn't. Well, Copper Harbor here, it's kind of the end of the road. It's literally the end of the road. And when people get up here, it's a desirable place to come. It's a tourist attraction, and so then people get up here, and then you're kind of just, what is the word, sequestered in this little town that has no room to grow, really. And I don't think they'd let it grow even if it could or would. But so you get here in some peak times, and it might be hard to find a place to park, and it's not right in someone's lawn or something, right? It's a quaint little town, and all that, considered, there isn't like signs everywhere saying don't park here and you're not allowed and give us your tourist dollars and screw off, give us your bank account so we can drain you while you're up here, some of these tourist places in America. But Copper Harbor is not one of those. I think they've managed really well to be a popular destination, yet still feel friendly and open and welcoming. And I always go by feeling. There's a lot of little red flags and things to pay attention to that would, like, I don't know, inform that opinion. But let's go back down this trail, guys. We're gonna walk around all day today, and I'm gonna see if I can touch upon one or some of these subjects that I'm always hinting or threatening to present to you guys, probably on the other channel, but we'll see. So stay tuned. So yeah, guys, we're just kind of killing time here in Copper Harbor today. That's just okay. It's a good place to kill time. Definitely fall up here. It's chilly. I'm cold. It's probably, I bet you it's not even 50 today. Thought I saw a snowflake, but I think I was seeing things. But if you guys ever get a chance to get up here to Copper Harbor, which is pretty much the top of the Keweenaw, you can actually go farther, but this is the last, civilization on the Keweenaw. It's a good trip. You would enjoy it. If you like the maritime feel, this is probably a lot like what the coast of Maine feels like, little small towns. Definitely Newfoundland, little outports and stuff. It's an authentic little outport in many ways. Has a lot of tourism. A lot of mountain bikers come up here because there's a lot of trails around here, and they've really catered to them, which was smart of the town. And of course, the Isle Royal Ferry goes out of here, so it keeps the economy alive, unlike some other towns like Ontonagon, which, you know, struggles. But okay, guys, I think we're gonna walk back to the truck, visit with Wavey, maybe take her for another walk, and then sit down and keep reading my awesome book, An Island to Oneself. It's so good. I'm tempted to read it to you guys. Okay, catch you soon.
That's a good one.
So I'm just wandering around Copper Harbor today, letting the lake calm down, and I parked my truck in front of this neat Catholic church and never thought to test the door, and it's open. So, and there is a sign that says open year round, and I think we're just allowed to go in there and check it out. So let me show you guys. What a neat church. Got a little clasp. Okay, Wavy Gravy, come on, let's go. Big old heavy doors. Probably gonna be dark in here, but that's okay. Wow, I'd like to go to a mass here. You know, it just smells so good in here too. It smells like, not quite cedar, pine, I think. I don't want to go up on the stage there. It's kind of, especially with Wavey, but very simple, very Scandinavian. I think they have mass on Saturday here. We'll be out in Manitou, or we'd maybe come and check it out, but yeah. Got some Bibles. What a neat building. Handmade foundation pillars. Bald Bankrupt is allowed to have his Soviet mosaics that he's always subjecting his millions of viewers to. He somehow makes them interesting. And I've got my churches. I love, we're really just old buildings in general, but a lot of times churches are extra special. So I just got to bring you guys along. It's like, think of it as like my mosaics, except it's the churches. So it's towards the end of the day here, and I walk back out to get a good view of what the lake's doing past the barriers, the reef here. And it definitely feels like it's calming down. It's about 5 in the afternoon. And my buddy here said that the forecast is down to one foot waves, you know, so that sounds good. We'll be going out right there. So 9 miles up around the edge of the Keweenaw and past Gull Island to Manitou. So I've been reading this book. Here, let me turn the phone around. I'll talk to you, show you around a little bit. So my buddy that I have up here, he's actually an old family, like third generation. You see the coffee shop here, the name is Jameson's. He's a Jameson, and they, you know, own, one way or another, the family, a lot of this prime real estate down here. You know, this building obviously, and there's their names on a few other places. I'm gonna walk around the corner here and show you his boat and how, I'll tell you how I met him. So here's where the Island Queen comes in to take all the folks over to Isle Royal. And my buddy, I'm probably stretching it to call him my buddy. I only see him a couple times a year, but you guys might remember about 4 years ago, I had a boat called a Vashon Island salmon trawler, and I bought it from him. It used to be parked right here, and he sold it. I got a good deal on it. I wish I still had that boat, like a lot of the boats I've had. And this is what he replaced it with. This is a Rossboro, about a 25-footer. He's actually heading to Isle Royal tomorrow. He's a pretty adventurous guy. His grandfather and his dad were all commercial fishermen, and you know, he's definitely a seafaring fella. I thought he'd be down here because he's supposed to be prepping his boat today, but it's kind of chilly. Maybe he's just taking his time, or he's going to come down tomorrow or something. But he was telling me how he's had to do a lot of work to the, it's an inboard and it's a diesel. It's got a Volvo in it. I guess it was giving him some trouble, but he finally got it worked out. Of course, that kicker on the back's nice. He moves the boat at hull speed anyways, but this actually is a, you know, this boat will get up and go. It's not a putting machine. I'd like to ask him what it does, but I'm going to guess about 30. The nice thing about the Rossboros here is one of the things I should say, they're made in Canada, for those that don't know. Nova Scotia, I believe. They have these slider doors on the side where come out so you can, you know, it really comes in handy for docking and stuff. And let's just take a peek inside. I'm not gonna, he told me I could just go on and look at it, but I don't really like going on people's boats when they're not around, you know. It looks very, very nice trailerable, you know. It's got a big old cuddy. It's one thing about the Rossboros that's nice, is you can see they have, it's actually a step down cuddy that gives you a lot of room. So, you know, you come from the cabin and then you step down. Got a lot of headspace. They're not quite headroom unless you're really short, but you know, a lot of cuddies on trailerable boats can feel like coffins, and the Rossboro solved that problem. So yeah, big cabin, just enough fishing deck for a couple of people. So yeah, he's going to Isle Royal. I'm jealous. I won't be going this year, next year.
And all my eyes had my pretty little lies tied around my wrists over my loose fists. I tried to explain I'm doing my best to be here, deciding on reasons why we are happy.
Did you do the Beagle pre-wash? Oh, you see a squirrel now? Okay guys, I have to try to tell you this story while it's still in my head here. So, one of the guys that was at Manitou here, there was quite a few people that showed up here today, you'll see. And there was a grandfather and a grandmother, and then a son, and then a grandson. There was maybe 4 or 5. He was adorable. And the grandfather, I started talking to him, and he brought up the sailboat, the Gladiator. And I'm like, what do you know about it? He's like, well, let me tell you the story. And I did ask him, I said, can I bust out the camera and have you tell the story? He's like, no. So, you know, it's always like that. Very few people want to be on film. It's just the way it is. So anyways, he told it to me. I'm going to try to tell it to you. So he came out last year, him and his wife, in October. And he said there was just they had to move the boat around the Keweenaw to go put it in its winter storage. And as they're coming into Manitou here at the dock, he sees a guy swimming with a rope pulling about a 19-foot skiff. Swimming, okay, in all of his clothes, like swimming. And so they pull up to the dock and they see him come over to the side, and then he starts walking the boat around the bay, and he's soaking wet in October in Lake Superior, okay? And he finally gets up to the dock, and they're like, what's going on? He's like, well, my sailboat, ran aground over on the other side of the lighthouse there. And he's like, the Gladiator? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, would you happen to have like a battery? I gotta try to start this boat. They're just standing there dumbfounded. They don't know what's going on. And so apparently this guy and his wife, I might get some of these details wrong, forgive me. Maybe he might not remember it. This is not exact. This is kind of what happened, it sounds like. So, let me see, switch hands here. So, well, this is not funny. I'm sure the guy does not think this is funny. It's just kind of funny, the calamity. It's the calamity of it all is what it sounds like. I'm only at 14 feet of water here. I'm making sure I'm not going to run into something. Apparently, this guy was from Wisconsin. And they're up there sailing, and they were going around Manitou, and they hit a reef. And the guy said it was an unmarked reef. Now, I don't know. The charts are pretty close. And when you're in a sailboat, you think you'd be being extra careful, right? I mean, sailboats are made to go offshore. But anyways, they hit a reef and it tore his rudder off. So, and we did notice that there's no rudder on the Gladiator, right? So they called the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard came and towed them into Fisherman's Cove, and they threw anchor. Well, apparently the anchoring in Fisherman's Cove is kind of tricky, hard, because it's just a lot of rocks and stuff down there. We did kind of see that. Right now, this boat is easy to anchor pretty much anywhere, right? But when you got a big 40-foot, several ton sailboat, different story. And the Coast Guard took them back to Copper Harbor. Well, apparently, while they were trying to figure all this out, in October, which is really just borrowed time on Lake Superior, a big storm came in. Now, I'll show you, just to remind you, Fisherman's Cove, it's a really nice anchorage, unless the storms are coming just right from the north, I guess it would be the northeast, and if they barrel in there, it's just like a funneling in the waves, and they can get big. And that, if you look at that beach, you can tell sometimes some gargantuan waves come in there. And I'm pretty sure the reason why Perch Lake even exists in the middle of Manitou Island is because at some point there's been big enough storms that it actually reaches that causeway there and floods that basin. So you get some storms coming in the right or the wrong direction, depending on how you put it, and no anchor's gonna hold. Sounds like that happened. It dragged the anchor and it put that boat on the beach. Now, initially it was just kind of laid on side on the beach. Probably could have still been recovered. The guy tried to get a tow company. His insurance would only cover $2,500, and a tow company to just get up to Houghton was going to charge him like $4,000, let alone come way out here at the very end of the season. I mean, in October you can literally just lose the entire season. It's done until spring. So he didn't he didn't pull the boat off. It sat all winter, and it got buried up to where we saw it. I mean, that boat, I don't know what it would take to pull that off the beach at this point. It probably would have to be cut up in sections and dismantled. Now, another fella here that was here today, he said that he heard that he was getting fined. The DNR, from what I've heard, they do have the authority that if your boat gets, what do you call it, like ran aground or incapacitated, they can start fining you by the day until you remove it. I've heard this before because there was a guy in Ontonagon a couple years ago who left Ontonagon kind of late in the season, and he was heading to Florida, and he made it in a sailboat. He was an older fella. He was actually a nice guy. I won't mention his name, but I knew him. And He made it all the way to Lake Michigan. He was off of Traverse City, and he ran aground. And it eventually laid on its side, and he had to carry all of his stuff out of the boat up this hill. It sounded like a real pain. And he had to leave his boat, and he was getting fined. And I never heard what happened. This guy was old enough that honestly he was, well, I don't know. I hope he's still alive, but it's very possible he died of old age. He was very old, just kind of having a last hurrah. And yeah, the boats, he couldn't get the boat off of the sandbar, and who knows what happened. But back to this, you guys have seen the footage. I'll put a link below of the one a few years ago that ran aground in front of the Lighthouse. So Manitou seems to be a place that if you're sailing, you might want to go way around it. Don't come in close. It does. I'll show you on a map. In fact, I'll do that here on the graph. It is shallow. I'm only in 49 feet of water, and I'm a half a mile off of the island here now. So yeah, that's the story as much as I could get. A lot of bad luck. Sounds like this guy might not have been a seasoned sailor, but that's not always fair to say. Everyone, Bernard Montessier, that won the Round the World Alone race back in 1969. I mean, just a legendary sailor. Lost one of his sailboats down in Mexico, I believe, Baja. Went aground and had to start all over. And so it happens. It can happen. But I don't know. I'm taking note. When I have a sailboat someday, I'm gonna sail. I'm gonna be really careful. If I'm hauling 6 foot of keel underneath me, I'm always gonna be in, I don't know, 30 feet of water. Maybe I'll start to get a little braver, but I'm not taking any chances. I am not running a sailboat. I mean, not that other sailboats don't hit stuff too, but it's a little different. If a sailboat gets aground, it's hard to get them off. You can back off a fairly flat-bottomed V-hulled boat. Whatever you hit, you can usually get it back off, depending on how hard you hit it, But when you got a big old keel down there and it starts to want to and fall over to the side, once it's fallen over to the side, well, then you're done. So, okay, guys, hope you enjoyed that. That's the story of the Gladiator, as best as I can piece together from a couple of people who come up here often, and I guess it was written about in the paper too last year. I don't read the paper, so yeah. Anyways, okay, guys, we're going back to Copper Harbor, but we're just going to anchor tonight in the bay, because tomorrow I think I got all the leaks fixed in the Achilles, the dinghy here, and we're going to go get a close look at the Lighthouse in Copper Harbor. So continue to stay tuned. Good morning, guys and gals. So we pulled into Copper Harbor last night after dark, dropped anchor just about a mile or so from the Copper Harbor Lighthouse, which we've never gone on land and seen. It's kind of hard to get to. It's on a outer reef peninsula. I think they give tours, and I think I see a dock up here. And since we're here, I just want to try to come see it and show you guys. So we're motoring over there. We're gonna go see what we can do. There's lots of rocks and stuff around here. It's only 6 feet. Holy cow. Okay, I better pay attention. We'll see you soon. Looks like a pretty good dock. Definitely don't want to hit the lower unit on those. Someone wants to get off the boat. Probably need to pee, don't you? Okay, make the jump. Go, go. Can you do it? Okay, ready? Go. I do believe we're going to get another lighthouse off the bucket list, guys. See it up close. The Copper Harbor Lighthouse is administered by Fort Wilkins State Park. DNR. Let's go see what this says over here real quick. Hayes Point. Here in 1940, state geologist Douglas Houghton confirmed the presence of copper on the Keweenaw Peninsula. 4 years later, miners began working Michigan's first commercial copper mines nearby. Since 1849, 12 years before the Civil War, the U.S. government has maintained a light on this shore to guide mariners approaching Copper Harbor. Cool. I don't know why it's taken so long for me to show you guys this lighthouse. I always had this understanding that it was like just tours only, because there's all these signs in town in Copper Harbor that say, like, you know, boat tours, and we'll take you on the tour. We'll come back and read these on the way back, guys, just so you know. And so, yeah, I just had it in my mind, like, oh, I guess you can't go out there on your own. There are some lighthouses like that, but apparently this is not one of them. You can pull right up and see it. It even has a nice walkway. Look at this. There it is. So this is one of those rock fieldstone style, but kind of rough cut. This must be an old one, or they were just using local materials maybe. See if I can read up on it a little bit, but I like that style. Let's peek in the window here. Can you guys see in there? I doubt it's open. Here's the back side. And we can, I bet you they do inside tours until it's kind of staged. Wavey? Wavey? Nice rustic door. Wavey? There's more interesting stuff out here. This was the living quarters. Now that I just looked up the hill and I saw the actual lighthouse, so this would just be the lighthouse keeper's quarters. Let me show you this over here. From up top, from that top window there, they had a nice view of Copper Harbor, which is right over there. Let's go look at the actual lighthouse. Go. Go, go, go. 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 We'll go this way. Let's see if we can stand far enough away from it to get a good view of it. Sometimes that's hard. This would be the modern replacement. I saw it coming in last night. It's got a green lantern or a green light, and then there's a buoy out there that's red, kind of telling you where to come through. But like I always say, it's like, so here's the modern equivalent. I'll just come around the backside here, guys, but I'm not sure there's much to see. This would be facing north towards the lake. And come back around to the, I guess would be, well, this would be the back, probably the back door. And the most important room on the property. The outhouse. The brick outhouse. Let me point out how thick these walls are. Look at that. Wonder why they made it that thick. Strength, insulation, both. Let's read some of these interpretive signs. 1848 tower site. The site of the first Copper Harbor light was a mystery until archaeologists discovered it in 1975 in front of the present steel tower. In 1994, archaeologists returned to verify the site, but little of the stone tower remained. So there was a tower before this one. What happened to the tower? Archaeological evidence and the 1866 lighthouse cellar provided clues. Excavation of the tower site revealed fragments of the foundation still intact. Some of these stones were still covered with the original whitewash. Examination of the 1866 lighthouse cellar showed that many of the stones were also coated with whitewash. The archaeologists determined that nearly 80% of the original tower was reused for the 1866 lighthouse foundation. The search for profit. In 1844, the Pittsburgh and Boston Copper Harbor Mining Company sank Michigan's first commercial mine shaft here on Hayes Point. Early companies mined copper veins found near the surface. The Pittsburgh and Boston Company first turned its attention to deposits near the Green Rock, a vein of copper silite, and a word that I can't pronounce there, cryosilla, not far from here. When it depleted those deposits, the company sank this shaft to a depth of about 60 feet. Here's a little more about the first lighthouse that they were talking about with the archaeologists. It says, the lights at Copper Harbor. 2 lights have stood on Hayes Point. The first was built in 1848 and begun operating the following year. Workers employed by contractor Charles Rood of Sandusky, Ohio, built the stone masonry tower and a detached stone dwelling at a cost of $4,907. In 1866, the tower, in need of extensive repairs, was torn down and replaced by the present lighthouse. Looks like they don't have any pictures of it, though, because this is the one that's standing. Except for a brief period in the 1880s, government lighthouse keepers and their families manned the light station until 1919, when the light was automated. In 1933, the beacon was moved to a steel tower built near the site of the first lighthouse. We live in such a different world now. Copper rush. Miners are flocking to Lake Superior copper mines in vast numbers. The Democratic Free Press, June 5th, 1845. As the news about Keweenaw copper spread, prospectors rushed to Copper Harbor in search of the red metal. From here, one pioneer noted, the shores of Keweenaw Point were whitened with tents. Here's a fenced-off area, and I thought it might be like a cemetery, but it looks like it might be a mine shaft. Boathouse and dock. The boat landing, 7 feet wide and 50 feet long, was constructed at the station, which I don't think is here anymore. First built in the 1860s, the boat landing was rebuilt several times until it washed away in the 1950s. Its remains can be seen underwater just offshore. Yeah, those boat docks take a beating. Devil's Island showed us that. So it was probably out here. Maybe the remains are on the bottom out there. Range lights. It would be impossible to enter the harbor in the clearest night without range lights. Although the main light led sailors to Copper Harbor's entrance, it could not guide them past the dangerous reefs on either side of the channel. In 1865, the government built a set of range lights mounted on front and rear towers. In 1868, the lighthouse service replaced the rear range lights with a keeper's house with an attached tower. Still in service, these lights are located near Fort Wilkins. Neat. By keeping the light in line, one above the other, boats can safely enter the harbor channel. Look closely at this July 17th, 1915 image to see the lights shining in each tower. Yep. Yeah, I used one over on the shore last night, a red one, and you can line up the lights. They do that in Eagle Harbor too. This is what's left of probably one of the shipwrecks. And I'll bet this sign tells us about it. Shipping casualties. The brig Astor dragged her anchor and was stove to pieces upon the rocks, where her skeleton now lies, just in front of the entrance of the harbor. 1846. 4 large boats sank at Copper Harbor. The John Jacob Astor in 1844, City of Superior in 1857, Jura 1869, and the Waseca 1910. Only the Jura was recovered. Historians think this rib section might be from the Astor and the rudder from the City of Superior. Okay, so they think this part is from the Astor, and that would be the rudder from the City of Superior. They think. Shipwreck. The crew of the Canadian steamer Turret Chief reached the harbor today and report that the steamer ran on the point about 5 miles west of here. The crew all escaped, but suffered much hardship for over 2 days without shelter. November 1913. The propeller is from the steamer Scotia, which struck a reef off Keweenaw Point and broke in two in 1884. Wow, look at that picture, guys. It's actually a really good picture of that. Yeah, that's a massive propeller. Port of call. Passed the Copper Harbor Light at 6:05 a.m., tied up at the dock and spent the morning in taking on 32 tons of coal. From the Diary of the Steamer Search, 1869. Copper Harbor was both a shipping port for local mines, a fueling station for steamships. By 1870, steamers carrying passengers and freight called here frequently during the navigation season. This capstan, I guess that's called a capstan, was recovered from Eagle Harbor. Crewmen used it to raise and lower the anchors. Demand for shipping. The discovery of copper on the Keweenaw Peninsula placed new demand on Lake Superior shipping. Since there were no roads across the Upper Peninsula, miners and soldiers who came to Copper Harbor relied on lake boats for transportation and supply. This anchor from one of the vessels was raised from the harbor. Well, that was neat. Another Great Lakes lighthouse. Another Lake Superior lighthouse. You can check off the list that we've got to look at. So why don't we go back to Copper Harbor and we'll figure out what we're going to do next. This ultimate Lake Superiorland adventure is really just begun. But I've been thinking about what to do next. So let me think about it a little more. Let's get to town and we'll talk soon. So stay tuned. I want to show you guys this really quick. So that sign, that interpretive sign back there, talked about the channel lights that you line up when you're coming in at night. Like I did last night, I could see this first one, and then the second one, you know, if I kept it behind the first one. Let me turn the phone around. So I just passed it here, but you can barely see in the trees back there. There's another one right behind it, up the hill a little bit, and you just line those up at night when you're coming in. They're both red. So if you see two, then you're not lined up. If you see one, because it can be pretty treacherous. You know, this is not you can see let's see if I can get it to hone in here. You know, there's rocks on that side. There's rocks on this side. There's a pretty narrow channel. And then there's another buoy sitting out there. I can't see it oh, maybe you can see it. Out there. That one's also red. It blinks red. So you just line up that one. And you come through, and you line up these, and you got enough depth.